Last time, after sailing as far north as we could get along the west coast of Michigan, we turned around in Charlevoix and started sailing south. High winds kept us at the harbor in Leland for 3 days, but Kirk took advantage of the wind swell on the lake to catch some freshwater waves for the first time ever. We hiked through Whaleback Nature Preserve up to a view of Lake Michigan, then took off south again towards Frankfort.
He is doing 6.7 knots, we're doing 6 right now.
John and Catherine, our friends on a Hinckley 42, had left from Charlevoix earlier that morning, and they were steadily catching up with us.
So we're gonna probably lose our wind later this afternoon. We lose it like from the north first and it moves this way. I keep thinking if I can stay ahead of John, he'll lose his wind first. Because we're racing. I don't know if he knows it, but I'm sure he's thinking it. There's landslide right behind us.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry we beat you, John. Well, we did have like a 15-mile head start.
Yeah.
We had planned to stay in Frankfort just for the night and take off the next morning for Bentwater. As we started heading south, we checked the weather and noticed that storms were forecasted for the whole rest of the next week.
We decided instead to head across the lake now, turning our 50 nautical mile 9-hour day sail into a 140 nautical mile 24-hour overnighter.
The water is boiling, ha 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 ha.
Are you filming this right now?
I am filming this.
We are on our longest voyage yet in this boat.
I do not want to cross the puddle.
Haha. She says the puddle like it's a little bitty body of water.
Can you imagine what we'd be like after 25 days at sea?
We've only been on the boat for about 12 hours. Ho ho. After 25 days we will be insane, no?
No doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, 25 days is no good on the boat. Oh man. I can't even see you down there. Hello?
Hello.
Hello down there, what are you doing?
I'm eating some slightly stale trail mix.
She's eating the nuts, yeah.
And I'm making macaroni and cheese.
On the boat?
On the boat.
On the boat she makes the macaroni. Jesus.
Oh man. We can still see land. We can see
You
land.
can see the land,
There's
yeah.
no license for this.
Yes, the land. Yes, see, the land is over there. But over here the sun sets. Just the water. The great big lake. Why, hello there.
I came to offer you a bear bite.
Ooh, I would totally love a bear bite.
And he's back to normal.
Nom. If this is what bears eat, I would totally be a bear. Should I look a little less ridiculous?
Maybe, yeah.
My hair's not going to be any better though. Look at that hair.
Here, we just stick it all the way up. Look at mine. Pretty terrible too.
But we've got a pretty sweet sunset view.
Yeah, we do. We've had an absolutely lovely sail today.
Ooh, I just looked at the sun for too long.
Ooh. I made 3 meals. I made breakfast, lunch, and
Underway.
dinner. Underway.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Awesome. I made fried eggs on toast with
Avocado and
chopped up veggies and whatever. And we've got a 2-dish meal. I used 2 pans.
because it's been so calm, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Macaroni and sauteed veggies.
and it's absolutely silent. Listen to that. Just gurgling water. Gurgling water and auto. We're just about to lose the sun.
It's melting. And that was the end of our Shakedown cruise. All in all, during our 20-day trip, we sailed just over 450 nautical miles, visited 5 different ports, spent 7 nights at anchor, and learned a lot about our boat and about living aboard.
The goal of the trip was twofold. First, what was the first goal?
To see Michigan.
Wrong. Actually, that's kind of right.
The first goal was to achieve Kirk's dream of sailing to Charlevoix. And we just wanted to see the west coast of Michigan. We just wanted to sail at our home Great Lake.
But it was also our shakedown sail. So we were also trying to figure out what we absolutely still had to do to the boat before we went down the Mississippi and started our cruise proper. Most people, when you say, we're going to take our boat from the Great Lakes down to the Caribbean, they think
the Erie Canal.
The Erie Canal and through the Hudson, through New York, and down the ICW. And that is kind of the normal route. You can sail offshore, but we bought our boat in Wisconsin, which is...
You're pretty much the furthest west that you can get in
the Great Lakes.
The Great Lakes.
You're as far away from the entrance to the Erie Canal as you can be. And we bought our boat a few months later than we thought we were going to. So we really didn't have a whole lot of time to make it through all 4 Great Lakes
before we started freezing our butts off.
And we really wanted to spend a little bit of time enjoying ourselves this summer. So we took the 3-week sail and decided to just stay in Lake Michigan. And instead of going down the eastern seaboard in the ICW, we decided to head to the Gulf via the ditch. Is what they call it.
Sounds so inviting.
For boats headed from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico, the ditch, which is part of the Tenn-Tom Waterway, provides an alternative route to the commercially trafficked lower Mississippi River.
So, the trip was twofold. Have fun and test out all of our systems that were on the boat and see what we absolutely couldn't live without and what we absolutely had to fix. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're here to talk about today, is what did we learn from our shakedown sail. So to everyone who is giving us crap about the anchor alarm and the windlass and the anchor, we got your back. We knew it sucked. That's why we upgraded our anchor and our windlass. So, let's talk about the first thing, the most important thing.
Pooping.
Poop. We had a very rough sail from Leland to Frankfurt, but the beginning, the first, couple of hours, it was extremely rough. That's when we broke your...
Oh, that's when I broke my teacup?
Yeah.
Oh.
About 3 minutes in, we started to realize we had water coming out of the head, and we thought that that wasn't a very good thing to have happening, so I went down there to try and fix it. Basically, we had poopy water in the boat, and right then and there we decided we're ripping out the head.
Nope, not happening. It already had leaked, and it wasn't horrible because it was the water that we were using to flush the toilet was leaking before it entered the toilet.
Yeah.
out of the pump. So already there was a strike against it. But the other big thing was we had already bought a composting toilet.
Yes.
So
We were looking for an excuse to use it.
yeah.
But the excuse was the head always smelled.
Also, not to mention, we had a 12-gallon holding tank.
Which would last less than a week.
Yeah.
So project 1 for the Shakedown sail, replace the head. Second most important thing we decided from our Shakedown sail is we need a new anchoring system. So we had a CQR, 35-pound CQR, that had a slightly curved shaft because somebody at some point rammed the bow of the boat into something much stronger than the anchor and bent the anchor shaft.
And the bow roller.
So we knew we wanted to replace at least that anchor. We also felt like we wanted to replace the anchor rod with a lot more chain since we have plans on heading down to the Caribbean where there are lots of rocks and coral which we don't have to deal with up in the Great Lakes. We decided new ground tackle, new anchoring system.
All right, what's next?
The third most important thing was our electrical system. On our Shakedown sail, we never left anything on when we turned off the motor. When we were not plugged into shore power and we were not motoring, we didn't use the lights, we didn't use the refrigeration, we didn't use anything that wasn't absolutely necessary except for navigation equipment for 3 weeks. And that was not going to be able to continue. But we decided that since we are planning to go down the river and we're going to be motoring 100% of the time for the next 2 months, we're probably not going to update our batteries right away. We're basically going to be living on the alternator the whole time. An easy fix to reduce our electrical usage a little bit was to convert all of the interior and navigation lighting to LED. The next thing that's very important is because we were working, so this is, what are we on, 4? Communications. We are both working while we're traveling. We need to be connected to the internet. And up in northern Michigan, there really was not very good cell phone service.
Zero.
And
we didn't have any service.
there is not good cell phone service out in the middle of the lake or in the middle of the ocean either. So we're going to get a cell phone signal booster, a marine antenna, and eventually we're going to get a Wi-Fi booster / antenna as well. In addition to communications, we need a handheld VHF. So when we were pulling into Leland, the marina was trying to hail us on the radio to tell us which slip to pull into. With the motor running and the radio down below, we can't hear up at the helm anything on the radio, so we want to have a secondary VHF. And when we go down the river and our mast is down, we're not going to be able to use our main VHF either because the VHF antenna is at the top of the mast.
So we needed a handheld anyway.
Handheld VHF.
What's next?
Number 5.
Ooh, yes, number 5. We hardly had to run the engine through most of our Shakedown sail because we were sailing. But going down the river, this is recording, right?
It's going to be probably the most motoring we'll ever do on this boat. Adding some sound deadening into the engine compartment, I think, is going to really pay off for the river trip. When we bought the boat, we literally had to shout to each other if someone was down below, or even in the cockpit, we had to talk with elevated voices. So before the river, sound deadening. We also have a 40-gallon freshwater tank, but we have a secondary tank that has not been plumbed.
Yeah, the previous owners, they just didn't need it. They didn't cruise for very long periods at a time. So the port side is another 22, 23-ish, 20 at least gallons, and we most definitely wanted to have that for our...
We don't want to run out of water.
We really won't on the river because there's plenty of places to get water. It's just how often do you want to fill up? And then once we leave the river, that's when we're really going to want more water.
We also decided our cushions are feeling a bit thin.
There's like one 12-inch spot in the salon that I sit on to edit.
And we wanted to beef up a couple of our cushions that we spend a lot of time on to make our derrieres a little more comfortable. We also wanted to provide some UV protection to our handrails, our winches, and our compass. So we're going to be going into a much more intensive UV environment down in the Caribbean area.
Further south that we get.
Florida Keys.
And since we weren't going to be using any of those things while we motor down the river, we figure we might as well cover them up now. So we weren't going to use the winches, barely use the handrails, and the compass. We weren't going to use because we're
not getting lost.
No, there's 2 sides to the river, one way to go.
So we have an anchor light on the top of our mast as we go down the river. We're not going to have the mast up. We need an anchor light so that we don't get run over by barges. Since we've mostly hung out at marinas and our home marina with our boat, we haven't really had a need to go collect water or go collect diesel fuel because it's
It's always been right at our dock. But as we start cruising, we feel we really should get a couple of jerry cans for diesel and for water.
Just to make sure.
Just to make sure that if we ever need it, we've got a way to bring it to our boat.
And also, it allows us to carry extra on deck.
The biggest electrical draw on our entire boat is our refrigeration system. Tom, our boat neighbor, has his own refrigeration repair company for commercial refrigerators on land. We're going to have him make sure that we're topped up and everything's functioning properly before we leave. And then hopefully we'll use slightly less battery to keep our food cold. That is what we learned on our Shakedown sail.
The way that we came up with this list was we identified necessary items and then things that were easy or cheap that we could do really quickly before we left for a river trip.
So, for anybody who's ever wanted to take their boat from freshwater to saltwater
Via the ditch,
we're going to show you how it all goes.